Ever wondered why apps like Twitter, Discord, or live sports stickers feel lightning fast? It's not a magic, it's power of real-time communication using WebSockets, and that's the topic of this video. You will see a quick guide how to implement WebSockets in your React app, and for that I will use Socket.io library and React 19. With those two, I will show you how to implement live feed like social media apps has. Let's go now to Socket.io website and let's take a look at documentation. So here we have that introduction section which explains how it works, and also here in that section it is mentioned that Socket.io connection can be established with different low-level transport. So it could be HTTP long pooling, WebSocket, or web transport. So in our case we're gonna use WebSocket, and if you want to know more about WebSockets we can click here and check the documentation. But the most important thing to remember for that demo, that WebSocket API makes it possible to open a two-way interactive communication session between the user's browser and a server. That's what we need for today's demo. Then we can check documentation how to set it up at the server and the client Socket.io. So for that they have specific sections here, server and client. So for instance, let's go to the server and click installation. And here they have a proper explanation how to set it up in your server. The same, let's take a look at the client. And here are some examples how to set at the client side. Okay, so now let's try this out. Let's try to build that live feed using Socket.io and React 19. Now let's go to the project setup. For that you need to open your terminal and run few commands. The first command is going to be for React app setup. For that you need to run npm create with latest and let's call it live feed, and we will use a React TypeScript template. Then you need to install Socket.io client in your React app, and also I installed Framer Motion and Lucid React. This is just to make things look nice, so it's not so necessary to install. And then I installed Tailwind CSS just to add convenience in styling. If you follow the same approach, also you need to run that command to init Tailwind CSS config. And also we need our server. For that I use Node.js app. So to be able to create such a server, you need to run this command. So first you need to run npm init. Then you need to install Express, Socket.io and cores. And after that you need to install some types as well, nodemon to run the server, and we need to add TypeScript support, but again it is not necessary, it's totally up to you. For server I created just separate folder inside the React app, and let's take a look at the server code. Let's go to that index.ts file, so all logic is there. So as you see, that server setup for the basic functionality took just 73 lines of code, so it's not that big. Now let's go line by line. So we import here Express, HTTP, Socket.io and cores. Then we initialize Express app, and also we call cores and express.json. That will help us to have proper data format. Then we initialize HTTP server. For that we call in create server from HTTP, and here as an argument we pass our Express app. And then we initialize Socket.io. So for that we call new server from Socket.io library. We pass our HTTP server, and also we pass our course options. The next thing, we define the type of our message. Message will include ID, username, content, timestamp, and avatar. Avatar is going to be optional. Then we can create that in-memory database which will hold the message history, and we define as well the threshold for it is going to be 50 messages. After that we can create a rate limit map just to rate limit all requests. And after that, we have the main implementation of WebSocket. The first thing we do here, we get this IO and we call on method, and we are waiting for user connection. So once user is connected, we're gonna output in console user connected with a socket.id, and then we're gonna send user this message with message history, and the message history we're gonna get from that array of messages. And besides that, we're gonna send user count. And on this part, we're listening for new messages. And the last part, it is disconnect callback. So let's dive into that code on send message. The first thing, we define the current timestamp and user rate limit. That will help us to avoid situation when user just bombards server with a lot of messages. And for that we have specific check here. So in case if user sends a lot of messages one by one, so we will send him a message that please wait before sending another message. And after that condition, we set a socket ID and current timestamp to our rate limit map. In that part we have processed message, so we have all message fields here, plus we create an ID and timestamp. And after that we can push that processed message to message history, but also we have to check that if message history is more than 50 items we assign in that variable, then we delete first item in the array. And by the end we send back that processed message so all subscribers can see it. And on disconnect we will show user disconnected message in the server log, and also we will delete it from rate limit map, that socket ID, and also we will update user count. And in the end of this file we have a code to spin up the server. Now let's go through client part of this app. For that demo I created one component and I called it home, so it holds the main markup of the app. Also I created custom hook and called it use socket, so this hook contains all logic related to WebSocket implementation. Let's go to this custom hook and see how it is done. So first we import here use callback, use sync external store, and also we import IO and socket from socket IO client library. Then in this part we have type definition of the message and socket store. Socket store is going to be our single point of truth for our web socket, so it will hold messages, is connected state, is connecting state, user count, and error. And right after that we have our class socket manager. This part can be implemented in different ways, so I decided to go that way to create a class socket manager and have all the methods related to WebSocket here inside that class. In the first part of that class we have socket store and listener's default state. After that we have constructor where we call connect method. And let's take a look at this connect method. So in connect method, the first thing we initialize our WebSocket with method IO, where we pass the URL where our server is running, and also we provide separate options for reconnect attempts and reconnect delay. Then we have listed all the methods we need in our app, which is connect, disconnect, message history, new message, user count, rate limit, and connect error. And all these methods under the hood interact with our socket store and update the socket store with a new state. So as you see, for connect of our WebSocket, we update state of is connected, and error. Also, we do the same for disconnect, but opposite direction. Also, for the message history and message, we update store with a new messages state. For user count, it happens the same. So we update user count here. And for that part, we have similar logic. And down below we have methods we already used, which is update store. We have subscribe here, get snapshot, and send message. And as you see, send message, it's pretty similar like we have in our server. So here we call this socket emit, send message, and here we pass the message itself. And this logic in the end of the file ensures that we have only one connection, so we will not run into case that component re-renders and we open new connection, like it can happen if we use effect in the component and initialize WebSocket connection. And basically that's it for the setup of use socket custom hook. So just to wrap up, we need that hook to have all logic related to WebSocket stored in one place, so it's going to be easy to maintain it. And inside that hook we have socket manager, which is our single point of truth, and it holds the state of our connection with WebSocket. Now let's go to markup of the app and see how we can utilize that custom hook. So now let's jump to home component. Home component is not that small, so it's almost 200 lines. So here I use Framer Motion and Lucid React just to make it look nice with nice animations. But I will not cover that part in that video. If you want to know more about Framer Motion, I have another video on my channel on that. I will attach a link to it in description to this video. But I want to pay attention on the way we implement WebSocket connection here. At the first line of this component, we use custom hook. I just showed use socket, and from this use socket we use messages, is connected, error, and send message. So let's take a look one by one where we use messages, for example. That messages we use in that part of this app. So in case if you don't have any messages stored, so we say that default message, that no messages yet. But in case if we have some messages already in our list, so we render these messages on the screen. And we render message with avatar, with username, timestamp, and we render content itself. Now let's take a look at where we use is connected. And here is one of the examples. We use is connected in our form where we type messages. So we use it as a flag. So in case if user not connected, the form and input will be disabled. For the error, we have different component which shows error in case if it is happened. And let's take a look now at the send message. Send message we use in handle submit handler. You can find it here in start transition hook. Start transition hook help us to update our UI smoothly. And here we call that send message where we pass username, content, and avatar. And basically, if you want just simply implement sending messages without error handling, without that fancy UI, we just need to call that send message, pass proper parameters, and that's it. Now let's take a look at the app component as well. In the beginning of that component, we also use useSocket custom hook, and from it we get is connected, is connecting, and user count. And we show that user count in the header. So here we have header. And after the header, we render our home component over here. So, and here you can see that we have a conditional rendering. So if is connected is true and we have user count, so then we render that on the screen. Basically, that's it for the setup of the app. Let's take a look now in browser how it looks and how it works. But before that, we need to start our server and start our React app. For that, let's go to package.json file of the React app. Here I will run vite. Perfect, it is running. Then we will go to server package.json file and we run that command. Perfect, we see that live feed server running on port 3001. So now let's go to the browser. And here is the app. So as you see in the header, we can see that the status of the app is connected and we have one user online. So it means that our WebSocket connection works. In that section, we're supposed to have messages, but currently we don't have any. That's why we have that default message. So now we need to select some username. Let's do that. Great. So we have that icon assigned to the user. Then we can try to type some message. Hello world. Send. Great, you see that it has appeared here with a timestamp, name, avatar, and the message itself. Let's try to send something else. Okay, that works. Now let's test changing the username. Let it be John. And let's try to type something from John side. Great, everything works. Now I have opened the app in another browser window, and now you can see that we have two users online. So let's try to set another user here and send message. So you see that we get a message here and here as well. So all setup works perfectly. That's a wrap up. Real-time updates, sleek UI, instant feedback. That's what modern web apps are all about. Socket.io plus React 19, that's a combo worth remembering. If this inspired you, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel to not miss next dev insights, and also let me know in the comments what is your experience with WebSocket. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.